I have been in the business world for 30 years, and in this video, I will reveal why your salary keeps rising, but you never become wealthy, how banks keep you permanently on the paying side, and why wealthy people think about money differently. The latest Federal Reserve data shows the top 10% of American households hold 67% of all wealth, averaging $8 million each, while the bottom half holds just 2.5%. There is a mechanism behind this, and I have seen hundreds who understood it, and hundreds who never did. Watch until the end because I will give you one rule that whoever does not know stays behind no matter how much they earn. Money exists in two forms: flow and reserve. Flow is the salary that arrives and leaves every month. Reserve is what you actually own: stocks, real estate, a stake in a business. 95% of people spend all their energy growing the flow, while real wealth is only created in the reserve. Buffett has taken a salary of $100,000 a year from Berkshire Hathaway for decades, yet his net worth exceeds $130 billion because his wealth sits in shares, not his paycheck. Even if your salary reaches $200,000, if it all flows in and out, you are at zero. Just a more expensive zero. Inflation is not the same for everyone. Federal Reserve data from early 2026 shows spending of the bottom 80% has not kept pace with inflation for 6 years, while consumption of the top 20% has reached an all-time high. The reason is simple. The top tier holds assets, homes, stocks, businesses, and these gain value during inflation. The lower tier holds mostly cash and wages, and these lose value. The same inflation rate means I am richer for one side and I am poorer for the other. This is not a conspiracy, it is mathematics. Time is your greatest capital, not money. Buffett started investing at age 11, and by 30 had a net worth of $1 million. Compound interest is barely visible in the first 10 years. Then it shifts dramatically. Starting at 25 versus 35 is not just a 10-year delay. It becomes a massive gap because those lost years are the foundation of all growth that follows. In 30 years, I have watched hundreds of people get raises, and almost every time the same pattern repeats. Expenses rise the same month the salary does. This is lifestyle creep, the sneakiest financial trap, because it makes you feel successful rather than stuck. Goldman Sachs found that 40% of households earning over $500,000 a year still live paycheck to paycheck. The issue is not the amount, it is the habit. Wealth only forms when a portion of every raise is set aside. And whoever does not know this stays in the same place, no matter how much more they earn. When I was young, someone told me, "The bank works with your money not for your benefit, but for its own." At the time it sounded harsh, but over the years I saw it as simply a business model. Neither good nor bad, just how it is. Credit card companies, banks, buy now, pay later platforms all operate on one principle: taking your future income now and selling you convenience in exchange. Credit card interest rates have historically been above 20%. A $1,000 debt, paid only at the minimum, becomes $2,000 to $3,000 within a few years. And that extra money comes from your future wages, with no product ever created. Buy now, pay later. Services are the same mechanism in a gentler form. In 30 years of watching marketing, I know every design decision has a purpose. Splitting a purchase into small pieces weakens the brain's spending signal, because each piece looks small. Research shows people who use this method end up spending more overall. They simply do not feel it. I call this the soft pain. The pain does not disappear. It is spread into small doses. The brain's alarm system never fires. And a person pays more for the same thing while feeling like a smart shopper. On student loans, over the years, I have hired young employees and watched where their salaries go. A student loan is, in theory, an investment in the future, supposedly leading to higher income. In practice, a young person starting work at 22 spends their first 10, sometimes 15 years paying off this debt, exactly during the years when compound interest is most powerful. I call this the lost decade, because the returns not earned during these years are never fully recovered later. This does not mean debt is bad, it means its true cost is far higher than it appears. My view on homeownership has also changed over 30 years. A mortgage is a 30-year obligation, and in the early years most of your payment is interest, not principal. While you think you are becoming a homeowner, for the first 10 years you are actually funding the bank's profit. If you lose your job or need to move, those years of interest payments are gone, never returned. Before calling a home an investment, you need to know its real structure. Because in the early years it does not work for you, it works for the bank. After seeing all this for 30 years, my conclusion is simple. Every financial product is a tool for one side and a product for the other. The question is whether you are the one using this product or whether you are the product itself. Someone who understands this can work with the same bank, the same credit card, the same mortgage, and get a different result because they know the rules of the system and operate within it rather than against it. And this difference creates two completely different financial destinies. Over the years, I have worked with both average earners and wealthy people. And the biggest difference is not the amount, it is the perspective. The average earner sees money as something that arrives to be spent. Salary comes in, expenses go out, whatever remains stays. The wealthy person sees money as a tool. Every dollar must do a job, either generate income or reduce risk. The average earner asks, what can I buy with this salary? The wealthy person asks, where can I place this money so it works for me? Same dollar, completely different question. And this difference in questioning compounds into an immeasurable gap in results over the years. The second difference is how risk is handled. The average earner feels fear at the word risk, because a loss is something hard to recover from. For the wealthy person, risk is a manageable variable, because behind them sits a reserve fund and alternative income sources. I call this the cushion effect. Whoever has a cushion underneath can jump. Whoever does not takes every step in fear. This difference, even when both have the same income, leads to different decisions. One sees opportunity, the other sees only danger. And over the years, this turns into completely different paths. The third difference is long-term thinking. Over 30 years, I have seen repeatedly that the average earner thinks in terms of this month. Salary, rent, bills. The wealthy person thinks in terms of 10 years, 25 years. This shows up in small decisions, choosing between spending a sum or investing it. For this month, the difference seems small, one dinner out versus one investment. But 25 years later, the accumulation of these small choices makes one person free in retirement and the other still tied to work. This is not innate, it is a learned habit. The fourth difference is the attitude toward mistakes. When the average earner makes a bad investment, they blame themselves for a long time, and as a result avoid investing again. The wealthy person sees the mistake as data, asks what should I change next time, and moves forward. I have seen this hundreds of times. The same loss, two completely different reactions. One withdraws after a loss and never tries again. The other adjusts and eventually compensates many times over for the earlier loss. The fifth and most important difference is environment. Wealthy people consciously surround themselves with others who think similarly about money, knowing that the habits and priorities of those around them eventually rub off. The average earner usually does not make this choice. The environment is formed for them by family, friends, and workplace, and it often reinforces the message spend and live for now. I only understood this years later. Who I spent time with was quietly shaping how I thought about money without my realizing it. And this happens to everyone. Only those who see it can change it. I have worked with financial numbers for 30 years, and what matters is not the number itself, but the structure behind it. According to data from the third quarter of 2025, the wealthiest 1% of Americans hold 1.75% of all the nation's wealth, the highest figure recorded since the Federal Reserve began tracking wealth in 1989. Most people hear this and say, "This is unfair." And I understand that. But as a businessman, I look at it differently. The question is not, is this fair or not? The question is, where does this wealth come from? And how can I be on that side? The answer is simple. This wealth mainly comes from two places: the stock market and real estate. After the pandemic, both asset classes gained value at a historic pace. Whoever owned these assets saw their wealth grow. Whoever did not watched from the sidelines. I call this the train effect. Once a train starts moving, it is hard to board, and those who stood on the platform before it left now fall further behind every year. This is not a matter of fairness. It is a matter of position. And position can always be changed. The earlier you start, the easier it is, because time begins working in your favor. Statistically, the middle class has shrunk. In 1979, 36% of families belonged to the core middle class. By 2024, this dropped to 31%. But this is not impoverishment. A large share moved up into the upper middle class. In 1979, only 11% were above the core middle class. Now 35% are. The definition of middle class itself has shifted. The target is always moving. According to Smart Assets research, in some major cities, the upper threshold of the middle class has now reached $98,000, $8,000 higher than the year before. Meaning as you earn more, the target moves further away too. I always tell young entrepreneurs, when you look at a number, ask two questions. What does this number tell me? And who does this number benefit? News that interest rates are low at first glance looks good for everyone, cheap credit. But in 30 years, I have seen that cheap credit primarily benefits those who already own assets because they can borrow more and buy more assets, pushing prices up. For someone without assets, cheap credit just means buying a more expensive home, taking on more debt. Same news, completely opposite outcomes for the two sides. And understanding this shows you which side you are standing on. After 30 years, one thing I can say with certainty: staying in the middle class is not a matter of intelligence. It is a matter of structure. Some of the smartest people I know have lived paycheck to paycheck their whole lives because they kept all their income in the flow category, never converting it into reserve. Some people of average intelligence understood one thing early: that every month a portion of income, no matter how small, must be converted into an asset. And 30 years later, they are in a completely different place. The difference is not intelligence. It is whether you see this mechanism early. And this video was meant to show you exactly that mechanism. Practically, my recommendation is this: whenever you get a raise, let half of it go to your old lifestyle, and immediately direct the other half into an asset before it even lands in your account. This does not stop lifestyle creep entirely, but it keeps its pace below the pace of wealth creation. Among the people I have recommended this to over 30 years, their financial position 10 years later differs fundamentally from those who did not, even though their starting salaries were the same. This is a simple rule, but its power lies in its simplicity. Because simple rules are easy to follow, complex rules are hard. And the hard thing is often the thing never done. On debt, my view is clear. Not all debt is the same. High-interest debt, like credit cards, paying it off delivers a higher return than any investment. Because interest you no longer pay is the same as money earned. I tell young people, if you have 20% debt and an investment earning 5%, pay off the debt first, because that is the safest 15% return you can ever get. This is not complex finance, it is simple arithmetic. But few people see it this way, because debt feels like an emotional burden rather than a mathematical equation, and a person who decides with emotion always falls behind. In the end, I always tell young people, your greatest capital is not your current money. It is your current time. Compound interest works on time, and time is given equally to everyone, to the wealthy and to the poor alike. The difference is who understands this early and puts it to work, and who instead spends it on lifestyle creep, paying off debt, and thinking, I'll start later. For 30 years I have seen this. It is not the income source. It is the use of time that separates people into two different destinies. The question is yours now. Where is your time working, for you or against you?